Final approach sequence initiated. The automated system announced. Atmospheric compatibility confirmed. Tay-Ray gave a single, measured nod. As the youngest xenobiologist ever selected for such an important mission, she carried the expectations of her entire species. The Nilarians had joined the Galactic Coalition only 30 Earth years ago, and were known throughout the Alliance for their discipline, formality, and emotional restraint. These qualities had made them excellent diplomats and scientists, if somewhat difficult social companions. The docking clamps engaged with a gentle thud. Tay-Ray adjusted her translator, and the small breathing apparatus that would filter certain gases in the human atmosphere that were mildly irritating to Nilarian respiratory systems. She smoothed her uniform, a shimmering blue-gray fabric that matched the metallic tone of her skin, and waited for the airlock to cycle. "Welcome to Horizon Station," a cheerful human voice came through the intercom. "Please prepare for standard decontamination and gravity adjustment." A fine mist filled the chamber, followed by a subtle shift as the artificial gravity calibrated to match the station's settings. When the inner doors finally slid open, Tay-Ray found herself facing a small welcome committee of humans. "Greetings, Science Officer Tay-Ray. I'm Captain June of Horizon Station." The human male at the front stepped forward with an alarmingly wide smile that exposed many teeth. Tay-Ray recognized this as a friendly gesture, though it looked somewhat predatory to Nilarian sensibilities. She inclined her head exactly 12 degrees, the precise angle of respect for a first meeting with a commanding officer. "Captain, I am honored to serve as liaison between our peoples. This is our Chief Engineer Ha-1, Medical Officer Min-Su, and Security Chief Unji," Captain Jun continued, gesturing to each human in turn. Tay-Ray noted their varied skin tones and facial structures, so different from the uniform silver-gray complexion of Nilarians. Humans were fascinatingly diverse even within their single species. "We've prepared quarters for you in the science wing," Ha-1 said, her voice higher-pitched than the captain's. "I'll show you there after you've completed processing." As they moved through the station's corridors, Tay-Ray observed everything with careful attention. The station was efficient in design but decorated with puzzling items that seemed to serve no practical purpose. Colorful wall hangings, plants in containers, and small objects displayed on shelves. "What function do these serve?" she asked, pointing to a shelf containing small figurines. "Function?" Ha-1 looked confused for a moment, then smiled. "Oh, those are just for looking at. People find them pleasant." "I see," said Tay-Ray, though she didn't really understand. Nilarians did not decorate their living spaces with non-functional items. They turned a corner and suddenly had to press against the wall as a group of humans rushed past, laughing loudly and pushing each other playfully. "Sorry about that," one called back. "Movie night in 10 minutes," another shouted. Tay-Ray felt her cranial ridges darken slightly, the Nilarian equivalent of a blush. Such behavior would never be tolerated on a Nilarian research vessel. "Are they not functioning?" she asked quietly. Ha-1 laughed. "No, they're just excited about watching a film together. It's fun." That word again. Fun. Tay-Ray had studied it in preparation for this mission, but the concept remained elusive. Nilarians engaged in recreational activities, of course. Precision memory games, mathematical puzzles, meditation, but these were all designed to enhance mental discipline or improve practical skills. They reached the processing center, where Tay-Ray submitted her biometric data for station security and received her access credentials. The process was efficient, which she appreciated. "Your quarters are this way," Ha-1 said when they finished. "The science labs are one level down. You'll meet your research team tomorrow." As they walked, they passed a large window overlooking Earth. Tay-Ray paused, struck by the vivid blues and greens of the planet below. "It is more colorful than the images suggested," she commented. The silver vessel approached Earth's orbital station with precision that spoke of advanced technology. Inside, Tay-Ray stood perfectly still, her four-fingered hands clasped at her waist in the formal Nilarian greeting posture. Her silver eyes blinked, first the outer lids, then the inner, as she mentally prepared herself for this important diplomatic mission. "Wait until you see a sunset from here," HFY said. "It's beautiful." Beauty was another concept that Nilarians approached differently. They appreciated precision, symmetry, mathematical elegance, not the chaotic display of colors that humans seemed to enjoy. They continued to Toiri's quarters. The room was spacious by station standards, with a sleeping area, workstation, and small food preparation unit. "The environmental controls have been adjusted to Nilarian preferences," HFY explained. "Though let us know if you need any changes. This is adequate. Thank you. There's a welcome reception tonight at 1900 hours in the main gallery," HFY added. "Nothing formal, just a chance to meet some of the crew." Tairi hesitated. Social gatherings were not her preferred activity, but she understood their diplomatic importance. "I will attend," she said finally. After HFY left, Tairi carefully unpacked her few possessions. She placed her research materials on the desk and her meditation stone beside the sleeping platform. Then she stood at the window, watching Earth rotate slowly below. 6 months on this station, 6 months among these strange, emotional beings who laughed loudly and ran in corridors and valued fun. The thought made her secondary eyelids flutter with anxiety. But she was a scientist. This was an opportunity to study humans up close, to understand their peculiar ways. She would observe, analyze, and report back to the Nilarian High Council. She never expected that she might change in the process. 3 weeks into her assignment on Horizon Station, Tairi sat perfectly straight in the laboratory, her slender fingers moving across the holographic interface with practiced precision. Her work analyzing the comparative cellular structures of Earth life forms was proceeding efficiently. Yet she found herself distracted by the sounds coming from the recreation bay across the corridor. Laughter, music, the occasional cheer. She had noticed that humans spent a surprising amount of their off-duty hours engaged in these recreational activities. The concept existed among Nilarians, of course, but was limited to pursuits that enhanced mental discipline or improved practical skills. What humans did for fun seemed to have no productive purpose at all. The door to the lab slid open, and HFY entered, her dark hair pulled back in what Tairi now recognized as a ponytail. "Working late again?" HFY asked, leaning against the doorframe. "The cellular degradation patterns in these samples are most intriguing," Tairi replied, not looking up from her work. "More intriguing than game night," HFY grinned. "We're playing charades." Tairi's silver eyes blinked in confusion. "I am unfamiliar with this term. It's a game where you act out words or phrases without speaking, and others guess what you're trying to communicate." Tairi's cranial ridges furrowed slightly. "You deliberately make communication less efficient. As entertainment." "Exactly," HFY laughed. "Come watch, at least. Consider it cultural research." Tairi hesitated. She had been avoiding the recreation bay, finding the noise levels and unpredictable behaviors of off-duty humans disruptive. But perhaps HFY had a point. Understanding human recreational activities might provide valuable insights for her reports. "Very well. For research purposes." The recreation bay was crowded with humans and a few other alien species. Some sat on cushioned furniture arranged in a circle, while others stood nearby with beverages in hand. The lighting was dimmer than in the corridors, creating what humans apparently considered a cozy atmosphere. HFY led Tairi to an empty seat at the edge of the circle. "Just watch for now. You'll get the idea." A human male named Jiho stepped into the center of the circle. He made a gesture that Tairi recognized as the start signal, then began moving. "You're coming, right?" HFY asked, appearing at Tairi's side with a datapad. "I have not decided," Tairi replied, returning her attention to the microbial samples she was analyzing. "Such gatherings seem inefficient." "Not everything has to be efficient," HFY said, leaning against the lab table. "Sometimes things just need to be fun." There was that word again. Fun. After 2 months on the station, Tae-ri understood the concept better, at least in theory. She had observed humans engaging in various recreational activities and had even participated in some simple games. But large social gatherings still made her uncomfortable. "I will consider attending," she said finally. "For research purposes." Ha-won grinned. "Of course. Very scientific of you." The next evening, Tae-ri stood in her quarters, contemplating her appearance in the reflective surface. She wore her standard Nilarian uniform, practical, formal, with the subtle insignia of her scientific rank. For a moment, she considered the colorful off-duty clothing that Ha-won had offered to lend her, but decided against it. She was here to observe, not participate. The main gallery had been transformed. The usual clean, functional space now glittered with small lights strung across the ceiling in patterns that mimicked star constellations. The gravity had been slightly reduced, giving everyone a lighter step. Music played, a blend of styles from various worlds, currently featuring a pulsing beat that several humans were moving to in the center of the room. Tae-ri positioned herself near a wall, where she could observe without being drawn into the activities. She noted the various species present. Humans made up the majority, but there were also Galactians with their crystalline skin, a group of Vosians with their characteristic 4 arms, and even a pair of Corellans, who rarely left their home system. "I didn't think you'd actually come," said a voice beside her. It was Min-soo, the station's medical officer. "I am conducting cultural research," Tae-ri explained. Min-soo smiled, "From all the way over here against the wall." Before Tae-ri could respond, Captain Jun's voice boomed over the speakers. "Welcome, everyone, to Horizon Station's annual Star Festival. As tradition dictates, we'll begin with the lights of remembrance, followed by games, dancing, and plenty of food from across the galaxy. Let the celebration begin." The room darkened, and tiny points of light floated up from the floor, holographic representations of stars. Each person could take one and dedicate it to someone or something they wished to honor. The lights would then join a constellation that would shine for the duration of the festival. Even Tae-ri found the display beautiful. She watched as humans and aliens alike took their lights, whispering names or words to them before releasing them toward the ceiling. "Would you like one?" Ha-won appeared with a small glowing orb hovering above her palm. Tae-ri hesitated, then reached out. The light settled in her 4-fingered hand, warm but not hot. "What do I do with it?" "Think of someone or something important to you, then let it go." Tae-ri thought of her research mentor back on Nilaria, who had encouraged her curiosity despite the rigid educational system. She whispered his name, then released the light. It drifted upward, joining hundreds of others to form a glittering map of memory and honor. As the formal ceremony concluded, the festival shifted into a more casual celebration. Food stations opened around the perimeter of the room. The music changed to something more energetic. Games appeared, some familiar to Tae-ri from her previous observations, others completely new. In the center of the room, a group had gathered around what appeared to be a performance area. Curious, Tae-ri moved closer. "Karaoke time," someone announced, and the crowd cheered. Tae-ri watched as humans took turns standing on a small platform. Words appeared on a screen, and the person would sing along to music while others watched. Some performances were skillful, others less so, but all received enthusiastic applause. "It's a form of entertainment where people sing popular songs," Min-soo explained, noticing Tae-ri's confusion. "But some of them are not proficient singers," Tae-ri observed. "That's part of the charm. It's about participation, not perfection." Ha-won stepped onto the platform next. The music began, a rhythmic, upbeat song that had many humans nodding along. When she began to sing, her voice was clear but not perfect, occasionally missing notes but filled with energy and joy. Tae-ri found herself captivated. The song told a simple story of exploration and discovery, themes that resonated with her scientific mind. But it was Ha-won's expression that truly caught her attention, The human's face was alight with pure enjoyment, her body moving freely with the music. When she finished, everyone applauded. HFY took a small bow, her face flushed with exertion and pleasure. She spotted Tori watching and waved her over. "What did you think?" she asked. "You appeared to be experiencing significant positive emotion," Tori replied. HFY laughed. "That's one way to put it. I was having a blast." Despite the imperfections in pitch, singing isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself, letting go. Tori watched as another human took the stage, this one even less skilled but equally enthusiastic. Something stirred within her, a curiosity unlike the scientific interest she was accustomed to. This was more personal, more immediate. She found herself wondering what it would feel like to abandon precision and control, even for a few minutes. "Wait," she said suddenly, the words escaping before her logical mind could intervene. "You do this for fun. Can I try?" The look of delighted surprise on HFY's face was answer enough. The morning after the Star Festival, Tori sat in her quarters, staring at the blinking light on her communication console. A message from the Nilarian High Council awaited her response. She had been avoiding it for precisely 2 hours and 17 minutes. Last night had changed something fundamental inside her. She had stepped onto that platform, selected a simple song about exploration that HFY had helped her practice, and sung in public. Her voice had been technically accurate, but stiff at first. Then something shifted, the encouraging smiles from the humans, the gentle nods from HFY, and Tori had felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest. By the end of the song, she had even swayed slightly with the music. The applause afterward had sent a rush of feelings through her body that she still couldn't properly categorize. The console blinked again, more insistently, with a small sigh. Another new habit. Tori pressed the receive button. Elder Do-hyun's stern face appeared on the screen. His cranial ridges were a dark gray, indicating disapproval. "Science Officer Tori," he began formally. "Concerning reports have reached the High Council about your recent conduct." Tori kept her face carefully neutral. "What reports, Elder?" "You were observed participating in human recreational activities of a most undignified nature. Singing, dancing, public displays of emotion." Each word was delivered like an accusation. "These behaviors reflect poorly on all Nilarians." Tori felt her secondary eyelids flutter, a sign of stress she couldn't quite control. "With respect, Elder, I have been conducting extensive research on human social customs. Cultural exchange benefits both species. Research does not require participation." Do-hyun said coldly. "Observation is sufficient. You will restrict your activities to professional scientific work only. The Council is considering your immediate recall." The thought of leaving Horizon Station, leaving the friends she had made, the new experiences she had just begun to explore, created an uncomfortable tightness in Tori's chest. "Elder, my research has yielded valuable data on human psychology. Their recreational activities enhance creativity and problem-solving abilities. There may be applications." "Enough," Do-hyun interrupted. "You will return to proper Nilarian behavior immediately." "That is an order. Report back in 3 days with evidence of compliance." The screen went dark. Tori sat perfectly still, her mind racing despite her outward calm. She had never disobeyed a direct order from the Council before. Such disobedience could end her scientific career, possibly lead to reassignment to some remote outpost far from any other species. Yet the thought of returning to the rigid constraints of Nilarian social norms felt strangely suffocating now. There was a soft chime at her door. When it slid open, HFY stood there, smiling. "Game night starts in 10 minutes, she said. "Jinho is teaching everyone a card game from his hometown." Tori hesitated. "I have received instructions from my government. They are concerned about my participation in human recreational activities." HFY's smile faded. "Oh, so you can't come." "I am considering my options," Tori replied carefully. The human stepped into the room. the door sliding shut behind her. "Is everything okay? You seem troubled." "Well, as troubled as a Nilarian ever looks." Something about how one's concerned expression made Tayri do something unprecedented. She confided in someone else about a personal problem. "The Nilarian High Council disapproves of my participation in human activities. They believe it compromises my dignity and reflects poorly on our species." "That's ridiculous," Hadwan said. "You're still the most disciplined, precise person on this station. You just smile occasionally now, and laugh, and sing. Those behaviors are not valued in Nilarian culture. But do you enjoy them?" Tayri considered the question carefully. "I find them illuminating. They provide sensations and experiences that are not available through purely intellectual pursuits." "That's a very Nilarian way of saying yes. I like having fun," Hadwan said with a small smile. After Hadwan left, promising to save her a seat if she decided to come, Tayri sat in silent meditation. She reviewed her options logically. She could obey the council, return to strictly professional interactions, and likely be allowed to complete her assignment. Or she could continue exploring human recreational culture and risk her career. When she opened her eyes, she was surprised to find that she had already made her decision. The recreation room was warm with activity when Tayri arrived. Humans and a few other aliens sat around tables, engaged in various games. She spotted Hadwan waving from a table where several people were holding cards. "You came," Hadwan said, making space beside her. Jinho was explaining the rules of the game. It involved strategy, memory, and most challenging for Tayri, deception. Nilarians considered dishonesty dishonorable in all contexts. "I will observe first," Tayri said when offered cards. The game proceeded with much laughter and good-natured accusations of cheating. Tayri watched carefully, analyzing the patterns of play, the social dynamics, the expressions that revealed when someone was bluffing. After 2 rounds, she surprised everyone by saying, "I would like to participate now." Her first attempt was disastrous. Her face revealed every card she held. The humans could read her intentions instantly. But instead of mockery, she received coaching. "Try thinking about something else when you're bluffing," Min-Su suggested. "Remember, it's not really lying. It's part of the game," Hadwan added. By the 3rd hand, Tayri was beginning to grasp the concept. By the 5th, she won her first round, successfully bluffing about her cards. The feeling of achievement was surprisingly satisfying. "You know," Jinho said as they reset for another game, "you're the first Nilarian I've seen smile." Tayri hadn't even realized her facial muscles had moved. But now that he mentioned it, she was aware of a lightness in her expression that would have been considered inappropriate on her homeworld. What surprised her most was that she didn't care. Later that night, as she prepared her research notes, Tayri reflected on the evening. The tight feeling in her chest when she thought about the council's disapproval was still there, but it was overshadowed by something else, something warm and expansive. She realized with sudden clarity that the tight feeling wasn't shame, it was fear. And the warm feeling wasn't just enjoyment, it was freedom. For the first time since joining the Nilarian Science Division, Tayri allowed herself to consider a radical possibility. Perhaps the Nilarian way wasn't the only valid way to exist in the universe. She would face the consequences of her choices, but as she drifted into sleep, Tayri found herself looking forward to tomorrow's game night with anticipation that no disciplinary action from the High Council could diminish. The Nilarian diplomatic vessel approached Horizon Station with the precise, measured movements characteristic of their advanced technology. Inside, Commander Sang-Min stood rigidly, hands clasped behind his back, silver eyes narrowed as he prepared for what he considered an unfortunate but necessary intervention. Docking sequence complete, the automated system announced. "Welcome to Horizon Station." Sang-Min had been dispatched by the Nilarian High Council after receiving troubling reports about Tayri's behavior. Their youngest xenobiologist, once considered a model of Nilarian propriety, had apparently been engaging in human recreational activities, singing in public, participating in games, and even, most shockingly, laughing openly. Such behavior was unbecoming of a Nilarian scientist. It undermined their reputation for discipline and emotional control. The council had been clear: assess the situation, and, if necessary, recall Toiri for rehabilitation. Captain Jun greeted Sangmin at the airlock with a formal bow that showed respect for Nilarian customs. "Commander, welcome to Horizon. We weren't expecting a diplomatic visit." "This is not a scheduled inspection," Sangmin replied coolly. "I am here to evaluate Science Officer Tairi's continued suitability for this assignment." A flash of concern crossed the captain's face. "Tairi has been an exceptional addition to our research team. Is there a problem?" "That remains to be determined." Sangmin requested to observe Tairi in her daily activities without her prior knowledge. He wanted to see her natural behavior, not a performance put on for his benefit. His first opportunity came in the laboratory. Through a viewing window, he watched Tairi working alongside human scientists. Her technical skills remained impeccable, her movements precise, her analysis thorough. But there was something different in her demeanor. She spoke more freely, her usually rigid posture occasionally relaxing. Most concerning, she smiled when one of the humans made a comment. Later, he observed her in the station's dining area. Instead of eating quickly and efficiently as Nilarians typically did, she sat with a group of humans, engaged in what appeared to be casual conversation. Twice, she laughed, a soft sound, but unmistakable. After a full day of observation, Sangmin requested a formal meeting. Tairi entered the conference room, her posture straight but not stiff. Her cranial ridges showed the subtle coloration of surprise when she saw who was waiting for her. "Commander Sangmin," she said, bowing precisely. "I was not informed of your arrival." "That was intentional," he replied. "I have been sent by the High Council to evaluate your conduct." Understanding dawned in her silver eyes. "You have been watching me." "I have. And I have seen much that concerns me." Tairi nodded, but did not lower her gaze as a properly chastised Nilarian should. "May I show you something before you deliver your final assessment?" Sangmin hesitated, then nodded once. "You may." Tairi led him through the station to a large room he had not yet visited. As the doors slid open, he was greeted by an unexpected sight: Nilarians and humans working together, but not on scientific research. They appeared to be preparing for some kind of event. "What is this?" he demanded. "A cultural exchange," Tairi explained. "An opportunity for humans and Nilarians to learn from each other in ways that go beyond formal diplomacy." Young Nilarians, the small research team that had accompanied Tairi, were setting up stations around the room. At one, a Nilarian was demonstrating a traditional memory game, the patterns complex and beautiful. At another, a Nilarian mathematician was showing humans the elegant problem-solving techniques their species had developed. But most surprising were the stations where humans were teaching Nilarians. One human was showing the Nilarian how to play a musical instrument. Another was teaching the precise movements of a dance. "I expected to find you corrupted by human frivolity," Sangmin said after they had walked the full circuit of the room. "Instead, I find you have maintained your scientific discipline while exploring new methods of interspecies communication. The humans have much to teach us," Tairi said, "not just scientifically, but socially. Their capacity for joy does not diminish their intelligence or their achievements." "Joy is not a Nilarian value," Sangmin reminded her. "Perhaps it should be," she replied with a boldness that would have been unthinkable before her time on the station. "I have found that embracing certain human practices has enhanced my creativity and problem-solving, strengthened my social bonds with colleagues, and increased my overall effectiveness." Before Sangmin could respond, Captain Jun approached them. "Commander, would you do us the honor of opening our cultural exchange? This event has been months in planning." Sangmin's first instinct was to refuse, but he was here to evaluate, and he had not yet seen enough. Very well, he said. The event began with formal speeches, something Sangmin was comfortable with. But as the activities commenced, he found himself drawn to the stations, observing the interactions between species. At a game station, a young Nilarian named Jai-Ho was teaching humans a traditional Nilarian precision game that required perfect memory and spatial awareness. The humans struggled but approached the challenge with enthusiasm. "It's like chess, but in 3 dimensions with invisible pieces," one human exclaimed. "More like 4 dimensions," Jai-Ho corrected, but he was smiling. Actually smiling as he said it. Nearby, Ha-1 was showing Tairi something called painting. They were applying colored pigments to a surface, creating an image of Horizon Station with Earth in the background. Tairi's technique was precise, her lines perfect, but there was an undeniable creativity in her interpretation. "You've really captured the feeling of it," Ha-1 said. "Feeling is not typically a Nilarian consideration in image creation," Tairi replied. "But I find I enjoy the emotional component of human art." As the event continued, Sangmin noticed something remarkable. The Nilarians participating were still Nilarians. They maintained their intellectual rigor, their attention to detail, their respect for tradition. But they had added something new, an openness to experience, a willingness to express emotion in measured ways, a capacity for what humans called enjoyment. By the event's end, Sangmin found his rigid posture had relaxed slightly. He approached Tairi, who stood watching humans and Nilarians mingling freely. "Perhaps," he said, choosing his words carefully, "there is something to be said for finding joy in one's existence." Tairi smiled, openly and without shame, as Ha-1 waved her over to join the next activity. "Your report to the High Council," she asked before leaving. "Will recommend the expansion of this cultural exchange program," Sangmin replied. "With appropriate Nilarian oversight, of course." Tairi's eyes widened slightly, the Nilarian equivalent of a broad grin. She bowed precisely, then hurried to join her friends. Sangmin watched her go, contemplating the strange feeling spreading through his chest. It took him a moment to identify it, so unfamiliar was the sensation. It might, he realized with some surprise, be happiness.